All right, so let's create an owner. And just to give you some practice, let me kind of tell you what I'm doing. So create an object called owner, and that has a name and an age. Okay, so go ahead and give that a try. You might put this on hold or on pause and practice it on your own just to make sure you get the concept of owner. In the meantime, I will continue as if you have paused and are anxiously awaiting to check your results. So I'm going to do a name, and Odie's name, the owner's name was John, if you remember. If you've ever heard of Garfield, that's what I'm working on here. And age is John. I'll give him 32. All right, so this looks familiar. We've done this already. And then if I were to console log owner.name, that should print out John. So let's clear out our workspace here and then type in node index, and we get John. So that's good. All right. Well, it turns out that we can also put an object inside of an object. So I'm going to put a comma, and let's see. John owns he owns a cat, doesn't he? And let's see, we'll put that. And the cat, he has a name, and his name is Garfield. And he has a color, OR, and Garfield is orange. Okay. So you have to be very careful with when you're creating an object, the last property in the object does not have a comma, but all the prior properties do have a comma. So I'm not going to put a comma after orange, nor am I going to put a comma after cat, but I am going to put a comma after age and John. So assuming this is all right, let's print out Garfield, which would be console.log. And then we just follow with the dot notation the path to get there. So we have owner, and then we have cat, and then we have name. So that should print out Garfield. So let's see. John and Garfield. Very cool. All right. Well, turns out that John also has a dog, doesn't he? Well, we got to make sure we include the dog. So I'm going to put a comma and dog, put a dog object, and the dog has a name, and his name is Odie, and he has a color, and his color is yellow. Okay, so the comma after cat, and then no comma after the dog object. So hopefully this is looking familiar. You have to really think about what you're typing in to make sure you put the commas and semicolons and closing braces and opening brackets and everything else in the right place. Owner dot, this time we're going to go dog dot name, and let's see if that works. Oops, there it is. And sure enough, we've got all of them printing out. Oh, that's fantastic news. All right, so turns out that you can also, remember that JavaScript is a very loose language. So here, even though we've defined all of our properties within our object literal, we can just add on a property as we go if we want. In other words, maybe, oh shoot, I forgot John's last name. So if I wanted to, I can just add owner dot, I'm just going to create a last name for John. Last name equals, do you know what his last name was? I'll pretend like I knew. I had to look it up too. His last name was Arbuckle. So now I can console log owner dot last name, and that, so I can just kind of append things on the fly. And we'll make sure that works, and there's Mr. Arbuckle. So we're good, looking good there. All right, so very interesting. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add Every object, of course, has a method. So objects not only have things that a state, a property, but there's things that they can do. So, for example, a dog can, let's see, where am I going to add this? Let's kind of start from scratch again. You know what I'm going to do just to keep things? I'm going to comment all of this out. Oops. Control V. Probably, nope. Let's just do it by hand. There we go. I'm going to bring that dog back down. So I'm going to bring my object dog back down. I'm going to work with the dog again. Okay, fantastic. All right, so we looked at dog and we said the dog object has a name and a color and an age. And dogs make noise, so let's put a comma and we're going to add a method. So we have properties and now let's add a method. So I'm going to use make noise and we're going to create an anonymous function. And we will do something like console.log woof, let's see, woof. There we go. And so now, if I want to make my dog object woof, dog make noise, woof. All right, so that should work. Let's clear out our screen and let's run it. So index, node index, and sure enough, I woof. Fantastic. Okay, well, let's see. Let's practice that. Let's practice. Let's see, we'll give it a noise, and then let's do this. Just kind of reiterating some of the things that we've already done. So we can use the backtick, remember, and use the $sign and the braces, open and closing braces, and then put in that variable, and then I woof. So depending on what we send our method, we will get a different noise. So maybe dog barks. Let's see, what else can a dog do? Dogs can grr. Let's see what happens there. I don't think Odie ever really grrred, but sure, there he is. Okay, so now he's grrring. Remember also that, and again, this is just to reiterate, remember when we had an anonymous function, we could replace all of this extra syntax with a fat arrow. So I'm going to do that just for practice. Okay, doing the same thing. Nothing's changed. So there's our parameter. And grr is going to get sent into that parameter. So sure enough, that works. All right. So that's one way we can do this. And as is JavaScript's way, there is another way that we can create a method. And that is, I can, let's see, run. I'm going to create a run. And let's see, console.log, I am very fast. So this is another way to create a method. And so if we make our dog run, he's going to run very fast. Sure enough. Okay. Well, that's all very exciting. And now what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to bring down my comments. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create constructors. And so, like maybe some of your stronger type languages like C# and Java, you can create objects from a class. And so we call it object-oriented programming. Well, we don't really have classes per se in JavaScript, which is why JavaScript is called an object-based language and not an object-oriented programming language. But we do have, it's similar. It smells and sounds very similar to creating a class, but they're not officially classes. So we're going to create a constructor. And what a constructor is, if you've not had a more structured programming language, and a constructor is simply when we create a new object, when we create a new dog or a new cat or a new person, a constructor is a a method or a function that runs by default automatically when we create that new object. And so we call this creating a constructor in JavaScript. So I'm going to create a constructor for animals so that I can create animal objects. And let me just kind of put the syntax for now. So what we'll do is we'll create a function, and then this might have some statements in it. And so then when we want to create new objects from our constructor, what we can do is we can say var dog equals new animals. And so what would happen then is any properties that we set up in animals, the dog will automatically receive, and any other animals that we create from this constructor. So let's put some statements in and see how this works. All right, so let's see, what does animals have? So when we create an animal would probably have a name and a species, let's say. In other words, is this animal a dog or a cat or a llama or whatever? And so when we create our new dog, we have to pass it in the appropriate arguments. So let's pass in, let's see. Oh, I know. Let's pass in, oh shucks, what is his name? I'm thinking of Lilo and Stitch. There it goes. So Stitch, and he is, oh, I don't remember what his species was. He was an experiment something. Don't remember the number. Experiment something. I'll just say 100, although I don't remember what it was. I can't believe I don't remember what experiment number it was, but that's okay. So he was a species of something, and he had a name of Stitch. And so when we create this new, I can call him a dog. Maybe he's a thing. When we create a new thing, and he's Stitch, we're creating it from our animals, and we're giving it a name and a species. And so at the time that we create our constructor, we want to assign, let's see, so we can give it a title. We'll just call it title equals name. And then also species, oh, let's see, not species, type, I guess, type equals species. And so what we're doing here is simply saying, this is the property of animals. These are the properties, and these are the things that will vary. These are our variables. The only thing that we have to add to this to make this complete is title by itself has no meaning. We're using this to create an object. So we have to put the word this in front of our properties. And the idea here is this is specific to the object that is being created here. So this is specific to an object that is being created from our constructor. And so that's how we keep each animal that we create individual, because this refers to, in other words, let's see if I can make this a little bit more clear. So now if I type out console.log thing, for example, thing is now a specific object that is calling title. And so things title, so I can use apostrophe S maybe, things title, and that's what this is doing. This is making things its ownership. So thing owns this particular set of properties, and so therefore we have to utilize the word this to refer to my object, my or me, my title, for example. In this case, this thing's title, which is specific right here with this. So if we print this out, let's see if that works, and sure enough, it prints Stitch. So if I didn't give it this, let's just say I did it this way, and try to do the same thing, I'm bound and determined to get an error. Sure enough, it's undefined because the interpreter doesn't know which title you're referring to. Well, I'm referring specifically to this object that is calling me at this time. So we have to have this in place. Okay. So now we can also, of course, make a method. So let's make a, well, let's see, before we do that, let's just verify that we're working correctly. Let's make some other kind of thing. Let's make a dinosaur, and we'll create it from animals. And we will create Dino. If you're familiar with Fred Flintstone, Boy, and I've really made this hard on myself. I have no idea. I guess he's a brontosaurus. And I have no idea how to spell that. Close enough. If I say the word, then you'll pretend like you know what I was trying to say there. Okay, I'm going to move along. So let's do console.log, and I guess that's dinosaur dot species, so we can see how horribly I spelled that word. And so now we should see specific brontosaurus. So let's see if that works. Oh, it's undefined. Why did I undefine it? Maybe I spelled something wrong here. Let's see. Dinosaur dot, oh, because I used the wrong. I used the parameter instead of the property. So let's change that. There we go. And now if we run that, there it is. Yay, this is so much fun. Get it? This is, never mind. All right, so now let us also take the fact that our animals might be different. So let's create some methods. So this dot noisemaker equals, remember an anonymous function receives a parameter, so I'm just going to put that parameter, which I'm going to call as sound, the fat arrow, and console.log. Let's see. We'll just put in the, I guess for now we'll just put in the sound. Okay. And so now when we create our animals, we can also make it add some sound. So let's do console.log thing dot noisemaker. I have no idea what noise Stitch makes. Oh, I guess he always says Ohana, doesn't he? So we'll do that. Ohana. There we go. And let's see if Stitch says Ohana. Undefined. So let's see what I did wrong. Noisemaker. Let's see. Thing dot noisemaker. I sent it sound. Console log sound. Let's see. What did I do? Oh, right. Okay. So here's what I did incorrectly. I did a console.log, and then I called the method. That was okay. But in my method, if I look at my method is console logging sound, which I am then console logging. So that's where the undefined comes from. So all I really needed to do was let the method do its thing. And there we go. So now I fixed that error. Okay. Oh, that looks better. Okay. And then I think you get the idea there. So now we're creating methods in our constructors. And here is another one. Here's the last method I'm going to create in this constructor. I'm going to create a method in a different way. So let's see. I'm going to put, I guess I need a semicolon here. And now I'm going to put this dot run equals running. Oh goodness, what are you up to now? Well, let's see. I am going to create a function called running. Okay, so notice that this is referring to the name of my function. Running is referring to the name of my function name, but it doesn't have parentheses, because if I had parentheses there, this would be invoking this function at that time. But I'm not invoking the function right now. What I'm doing is assigning this whole function to a variable name. So I'm assigning this, whatever's in this function, to a single variable name. And let's see, what shall we put in running? Let's put console.log. Let's just say something simple like, well, let's see, maybe we can do number of paws. So I run on numpause. Okay. And so now we have in our constructor then a variable that's holding a reference to a function that runs. So let's see, I can do thing dot, and I need to call that method name or function name, which is run. And I need to send it an argument. So Stitch runs on 2 legs mostly. And so now that should print out console log I run on 2. I guess I needed to put how many paws plus pause. That makes sense. That's where I was headed with that. All right, let's see if that works. I run on 2 paws. So there you go. So that's a different way to do a function, but again, probably kind of a new concept. So this whole concept of sending a function name, we're simply sending a function name to a variable, and then we can run that function from that variable, in this case, as part of our constructor.